G'day ladies and gentlemen, how y'all doing? Scotty49 here with you once again for another installment in our Warhammer 40,000 for the New Guys series. Now in this series, we're looking to go through all the factions of the game of Warhammer 40,000, talking about their lore, the pros and cons of playing them, the core rules for those factions, as well as the best ways to start the army and add on to them as your next steps options as well. And in today's video, we're going to be kicking off with another faction for the series. It's going to be the fourth faction, and we're looking at the Chaos Space Marines. And it's going to be great to look at these guys, the counterparts of the Space Marines, the other side of the coin, if you will. But ladies and gentlemen, before we jump in, I want to thank everyone that has subscribed over here on YouTube. It is great to see this community growing, and it is absolutely awesome to have you with us. I hope you are enjoying the content, and let's jump into it, team. Alrighty, so to start off the lore of the Heretic Astartes, or more commonly known as the Chaos Space Marines, as you know them. Much like the Space Marines, their origins actually go back over 10,000 years in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Their initial origins are the same as that of the Space Marines, as Chaos Space Marines were actually originally Space Marines themselves. The Chaos Space Marines at the core were the legions that sided with the War Master Horus himself, the Primarch of the Lunar Wolves that then became the Sons of Horus, that then eventually became the Black Legion, and they turned against their fellow Space Marines and the Emperor himself, believing in the Chaos Gods instead of following the Emperor's ways, and believing that the ways of the Chaos Gods was correct. When Horus was slain by the Emperor himself, and the Emperor was mortally wounded in the Siege of Terra up on one of the battle barges above Terra itself at that point, the Chaos Space Marines actually fled into the Eye of Terra, and thus the Warp itself, where the Chaos Demons for each of the four Chaos Gods reside and existed there in each of the different realms that each Chaos God has. Now, some of these legions during the heresy had dedicated themselves to one of the four Chaos Gods. The World Eaters dedicated themselves to Khorne. The Emperor's Children dedicated themselves to Slaanesh. The Thousand Sons reluctantly dedicated themselves to Tzeentch. And the Death Guard dedicated themselves to Nurgle. Now, two of these legions have got their own codexes that we'll also be covering in this series, and the third has got their codex on the way in the next couple of months of recording, I believe at the early end of 2023. After Horus's death, Abaddon of the newly named Black Legion, Chaos Space Marine Legion, took up the mantle of being the central warlord of the Chaos Space Marines, even though there were several Primarchs of the Traitor Legions that still survived through the Horus Heresy and still survive to this day. For example, Magnus and Mortarion and Angron and even a few others. Now, throughout the next 10,000 years from the heresy, Abaddon has been the only leader that has been able to gather all of the Chaos Space Marines under a united Chaos Undivided force, other than Be'lakor, to undertake what are known as Black Crusades, where the Chaos Legions, along with demonic forces, strike out from the Eye of Terror, seeking to disrupt and weaken the Imperium of Man, with several key goals for each of these Black Crusades, which the Imperium did consider them to be failures, but Abaddon had ulterior motives for them. Now, Abaddon has led 13 Black Crusades in total, with the most recent one successfully destroying the Cadian homeworld of Cadia, that kept an ever-watchful vigil over the Eye of Terror and the forces of chaos that would spew from it, and was set up primarily to defend the Imperium against the Eye of Terror. However, as a result of this victory, the forces of chaos have been able to further expand the tears of the warp into the galaxy, heavily disrupting Imperial communications and supply lines throughout the galaxy, which is effectively been split in half by the tremendously large warp rifts that now exist, with only a few safe crossing points. Outside of the Black Crusades, the Chaos Space Marines more act as individual war bands with a lot of different leaders and champions to further not only their own goals and their own ascension potentially to Chaos Lord or to demonhood as Chaos Demon Princes, but also the goals of the Chaos Gods. Throughout the last 10,000 years since the Horus Heresy, there have also been many loyalist Space Marine chapters that have turned against the Imperium and been considered Chaos Space Marines and are played as Chaos Space Marines, even though they do more align themselves to being renegade Space Marine chapters. The most notable ones of these are the Astral Claws, who weren't the only chapter that turned traitor as a result of the Badab War, but there were several of them, and they are now more commonly known as the Red Corsairs. The Chaos Space Marines come out of nowhere, striking from the warp without warning, killing, pillaging, desecrating, and burning planets wherever they go for the glory of the Chaos Gods, both to help with their own survival as well as spread the influence of the deities that they worship throughout the galaxy. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that is a nice quick introduction to what the Chaos Space Marines are all about. They're all about seeing the fall of the Imperium and the Chaos Gods rising up and ruling across the galaxy, and the warp just decimating it. If you do enjoy this video and this style of content, feel free to leave me a comment down below, like the video, and if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to the channel and make sure that notification bell is turned on so you are notified about when more content is coming out here on the channel. And if you do feel like financially supporting me, feel free to check out my Ko-Fi that is linked down in the description, where you can join up as a member or give a one-off donation as well. But ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna be it for this video, and I hope to catch you in the next one.